Yo, 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 good morning. Grateful for another maggot-free day above the dirt. So, this video picks up from the last one. The last one was on the first noble truth, and this is going to be on the second noble truth, and we're discussing the four noble truths, which I'll get to in a few more videos, before we move on to the fourth foundation of mindfulness, because understanding these Dharma teachings, the nature of existence and our place in it, at least at a basic level, is really important for the fourth foundation of mindfulness. So the second noble truth is that there is a beginning, a start to suffering. So that start of suffering is attachment. In Bhakti, we tend to call it entanglement. In Buddhism, attachment. Same difference, really. And the teachings say that attachment begins with ignorance. Now, the Buddhist teachings, and I'll talk about this in the future sometime, about the dependent origination, the 12 links of causation, which start with ignorance. But right now we just need to speak about ignorance, and really it's not only Buddhism 101, it's really the foundation of all that unhealthy comes, all that's unhealthy that comes after starts with ignorance. So ignorance is vital in terms of recognizing and understanding, and that's the tough part. Ignorance works hard at keeping us ignorant. Delusion keeps us deluded. Yet we have to find clear seeing within delusion and within ignorance. And on one side of things, without it, we wouldn't have a launching place, a starting place. But so ignorance is fueled by improper thinking. And this is more of a Tibetan teaching, but improper thinking is not unethical and it's not immoral thinking. It's thinking that is rooted in something, a belief that's untrue. So the belief is untrue and it makes our thinking untrue. So this is improper thinking. And an easy example would be, we have a belief that when we're in pain, drinking or doing some kind of drugs are going to take that pain away. So that's the improper thinking. Now, the thing about improper thinking is a lot of times it began in truth, meaning that there was a time probably in someone's life when, a drink or a drug did accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. And then that line is crossed and it doesn't anymore. And then you get involved in the problem of pursuit with that's associated with attachment, is pursuing that feeling, that experience, which just doesn't happen anymore. But the improper thinking is that we continue to think that what was once true is true and that it will still work, right? And the irony is we could have a million things around us happening that proves our thinking's improper, that proves our belief is wrong, but because we're so attached, we just refuse to see it or see it and ignore it. Now, the other aspect of this is called taking false refuge. So what is taking false refuge? And it's in a simple way, taking false refuge is seeking refuge in something that is unhealthy and false. So in other words, if improper thinking is thinking that getting high is going to solve all my problems, the false refuge is actually the action of getting high, the drugs themselves. The refuge is false. So it's how we act out improper thinking. So we see how this is all tied in. We're ignorant. from that ignorance stems improper thinking, thinking rooted in an untrue belief. And then false refuge is the activity or the substance or the object that we take refuge in that doesn't give us refuge, but actually causes or compounds the original problem a million times worse, right? So suffering begins when we attached to a fixed idea of a permanent self, identify with that, and attach to its pursuit and avoidance of things. Suffering ends when we break attachment. This is not detachment and it's not indifference. It's a state of non-attached awareness where we can be with experience until it naturally ends without trying to prematurely end it by avoiding it or abnormally prolong it by clinging and pursuing. So I hope this was helpful in understanding a little bit about the mechanism of attachment through ignorance, improper thinking, taking false refuge, and then how this all leads to suffering. So the next the next noble truth will be that there is an end. There is an end to suffering, and that there are ways, actions we can take, ways we can assimilate the teachings into practical skill set and end suffering once it starts. So, this noble truth is more about how we begin to suffer, and the third noble truth is about how we stop suffering once we're in it. So I hope this was helpful. Peace out. Have a grateful, maggot-free day above the dirt.